way of planning, I suppose. Not a particular technique here or anything stunning, but an easy way to do something, really. Now, one of my students came along. This was a coloured photograph. I don't know why this one's in black and white, but she rather liked the view, but she didn't know where to start. Well, to me, I could see there was a very simple way of doing it. Now, remember that your watercolour paints are translucent. You build up the layers. We have light colours here and we have dark colours. So I suggested to her, and this is what she started to do. She hasn't quite finished this and there's various marks and a few problems. But what I suggested she did was to pick a colour that was going to be for her sky and the water, remembering that the water is often reflecting the same as the sky, just with a bit darker and with movement in it, and painted the whole lot. It's quite simple, really. So that's what she did. So I'm just going to show you briefly. I've ruled up a strong area. Let me just think I'll zoom out a bit. No, in, out. There we go. I've rolled up the area so you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I've mixed a big puddle of a murky pale blue, and I'm just going to go all the way across. There's a Bruno cat about, so don't be surprised if he decides to make an appearance. Right, let's get a bit more on there. I can hear the sound of approaching pools. A bit more at the top. I'm being very casual about this, as you can see. Just want to get it on there just to show you an approach, not specifically doing this picture, but it's an approach that you could use for something else. I should have taped that down. If you have something similar in mind. Of course, she said, what section, which bit should I do first? So I just said, well, look, just get this colour on and it gives you something to work against. And then what I'm going to suggest, and what we did, is we're looking at 2/3 sky, roughly, okay? So that's there, that horizon, that's that line across there. Okay, and then you've got the water, which is roughly another third, but it's a bit more than that. And then you've got the bridge, which comes out there. Now, if you want to make things really easy for yourself, you can say that the posts at the beginning start here. You can then take your rule and create your lines, which if you continued, as you know, dear friends, from basic perspective, those two lines will eventually converge to the vanishing point. Okay, so while we have got that drying, let me just find another brush. I don't want it to be too wet, but then I suggested, okay, what you do now is you mix your murky colour for the background. Look, I'm using what's in my palette, as I often do. What's that? That'll do. Okay, now I'm going to put, see these distant hills? There's one layer of distant hills. You could let that dry off a bit more. I'm working far too quickly, but I'm just doing it to show you a way of working. You get in your nearer hills. I'm putting this in roughly just so you get an idea of what I'm doing. So already you've got your horizon, your landmass there. Then we've got this at the front, which is much nearer to you, hence it's darker. Oh, there's another layer there. Let's put another layer in. We can go over this again. I will when it's a bit drier. I just want to get it sorted, get it on the paper, as it were. And then you've got your foreground here. And what's happening in there, this was it's an estuary, there's probably another bit of water there, so what you can do, you can leave a gap which gives you that idea of water, and you'll see how I'm just sort of building this up just to get it mapped in, then you know where you are, you've got an idea. Okay, so look, 2 posts. If I follow on with what I suggested to you, I'm just going to go, that's the end of my pier. That's the end of my pier, roughly. Very light, okay? And then I can just put some vague marks in. Now look at the height of those, they are only a bit lower than those, so, and those are a short distance from the shore, so if those are those, then these will be about there. So do you see how I'm going through a process of putting in the dots and finding the spaces? So what I'm going to do is just let that dry off, and then I will come back and show you a bit more. Actually, while I'm here, how much paint have I got? Not much. I'm just going to tidy that up. Now remember, my creative chums, that things in the distance are paler because there are atmospherics which come into play. As they get nearer to you, the colours get darker. And also, when you have layers of hills like this, the mist gathers in the dip in between. So that's too wet now at the moment, and I'm going to get rid of these bits of fluff I've got on them, and I'll get back to you shortly. Well, that has dried off sufficiently for me to come back and do a bit more. Now, if I really wanted to be a fuss pot, I could wet off some of this and push it up to the top. I don't know where that bit of brown has come from. Oh dear, Bruno's arrived. Hello, Mr. Bruno. You would obviously pay more attention to this if you were doing a specific painting, but it's just another thing to show you. You stay there. You can't see him, he's just up there. Aren't you, sweetheart? Yes, right, okay. So let's just dab that off. So there you go. I could have done that earlier, but I just thought of it now. So there we are. Let's dry that bit off. Okay, let's look back at this rinse that brush off. These distant hills, and let's sharpen that up a little bit more. It's the paper's cockle because I didn't tape it down properly. So there we come in. Let's put another layer in there. Now, did you see what I did then? I pressed the brush down because most of the colour, most of the pigment is in the tip. And because we have hilltops, we have mist that gathers in the low country, as it were. So that's quite good that I just wanted to get the darker on the top. And we'll put a little bit more on there. Now that's dried out a bit. And we'll just smudge that out. Okay, we can fiddle about with that a little bit more in the fullness of time. Okay, now we're coming back to the foreground, the next layer as it were. So this is this layer here, and I'm just making a bit, it's merged into the other one, but we can sort that out later on. Let's just make a change here, since I didn't get a very good line. So the colours are getting darker as they come towards you. Now here, whoa, now that's quite a lot darker, but as you can see, it is here. And when I've just dabbed a bit of that off, a bit too strong, but now look how that has really pushed those others back. So we've got some trees and shrubs and things, sticky up things. Let's just pull a bit down from that. Now this is where people who like to do really small fine work will love this bit. And you see how I'm just literally, well, making it up as I go along. I'm not obeying every bit, and that's the road to madness. You know the idea. Look, you can see it. You've seen it millions of times. Look, there's the shore behind that other bit of lake. Now we've got a lot more dense stuff there, trees, whatever. So you can do it as you wish. Just be mindful of the marks you make. Don't just go duh, 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 duh. Think about it. Think about it. I say to this to people till I'm blue in the face. Be mindful of the marks. I'm looking at that now, and I'm seeing a landscape. I'm seeing distant mountains, hills, distant trees. There's a lake there, and there's these trees in front of it. Take your time. Look at it. Build the story. Get excited about it. And now you can really see that we've got, with that darker colour, it really has made this leap forward and pushed all that back. For those of you who want to know, this is Payne's Grey with a bit of whatever is lurking on my palette. So that is all fairly dense there, so I'm going to do likewise, but I'm just going to leave the odd gap. This needs to come forward a bit more. Layers, you're getting layers then, you see, and this is also where your colour values come in. And now I'm just dabbed my brush off, rinsed it off a little bit, and I'm just gonna put a few clouds of blobs there, and here we go, some ripples in your water. Now look what I'm doing, I'm just running, and look, sometimes I don't touch the paper. And I'm going down. And that, of course, is reflection in the water. Just taken some water onto my brush. And now I'm just literally making, oh, too dark, quick, 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 quick. Although they will get darker as they come towards you, because this down here, I'm going to do it, let's just do it, is going to be quite dark. And then quickly, before it dries, start. Now, you don't have to worry about this. You can obliterate it a bit if you must, but basically your pontoon, pier, whatever you want to call it, is going to come out and will go over, because it will be a darker colour, it will go over. Now, it would be helpful to change to a bigger brush. So to get a more realistic look, so like continuous ripples, you can go straight across. Now you can fiddle about with that to your heart's content later on. I just wanted to get it on the paper just to show you. That's too dark, that bit there. Just lift it out a little bit. But the beauty of starting light, my dear friends, is that you can go darker and darker afterwards. You can build it up. So if we want to, just for the sake of argument, just to get something mapped in, we can go, where was it? That's your post here. That's your post here. And these are your, it's up here, wasn't it? Your posts here. So already you can imagine going off into the water, looking at the view, maybe the boat's just arriving, and you've already got the idea of this view and the distance. It's fabulous, and it's so simple if you look at it a different way. It's all about how you look at things sometimes. Don't think, well, I've got to do that first, then I've got to do that, I've got to wait for that to dry. Just do it, just go for it. So we'll let that dry, because I think I better, and I'll see you next time. Well, this has dried out, though I'm afraid this has met with an accident. Always empty your water jars, people, especially when you've got a Bruno about. Anyway, it's enough for us to see what we're doing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm very pleased with the way this is looking. I think it's super. But what I'm going to do now is get these posts in and the planks that go out on the pier. Now, although this isn't awfully long, you can see that perspective has come into view, into use, because you've got that slope there, and also the width of each plank, each decking piece, does look as if it gets narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower as it gets further away from you, which it would. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a watercolour pencil to do this, which makes it a lot easier, and for the sake of argument I'm going to make sure that that's parallel to the edge of my paper. Now let's see what we got. Just going to put a light line in. That'll do for that one. And again, you can see that they are within the bridge. They're not standing outside of it. And let's do that one. There we go, that's that. And one across here, wherever you like. Okay, and then these posts which are nearer towards this, and you can in fact see the top of that, so you've got the surface, the round shape, and they also do set within the bridge pier, so they want to be within that. So what I'm going to do is put my inner line there. I'm going to do my circle, and I don't care if it goes off the mount area or not. So that's within, and likewise here, put that within as well. So there we go, roughly right. That one's a bit lower than that one, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so what we can do now is we can just put our end plank in, and our next one, we actually have a gap here. I think there are two planks, and then there's a gap, a big hole, and you can see the support struts. So let us just, for the sake of argument, no, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to just make all the struts in. I'm not going to bother with a hole. So that's that, and that's that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, this is the first one, which is quite wide. That's the next one. Okay, this needs adjusting, and then I'm going to put the rule there so I can see what I'm doing a bit more. There's another one, another one, and another one, and just keep going, gradually getting narrower and narrower as they go away from you. Oops, got a bit wonky there. There we go. If you do go a bit wonky, then you could put the gap in, couldn't you? So there's your bridge. Now I am going to, although you can't see here unfortunately, I'm just going to tidy up that little hilltop. There we go. Doesn't want to be much darker, just wanted to make that edge look a bit cleaner. I haven't touched this for maybe a week, so you can see how you can still maneuver the paint. Let's bring that a bit darker there. So you can add layers, keep adding layers. So this is a sort of a more of a browny colour. I'm using what's in my palette basically. And that watercolour pencil, for those who are interested, was called a burnt oxide. Now you can literally just, in fact, let's get a bigger brush, let's get a chisel. And just activate the watercolour pencil just to get those in vaguely. Okay, went wrong there, but we're going to put more paint on this so it doesn't matter. But before we do that, we're going back to our bluey, greyy, whatever colour it was. Remnants in the palette, always worthwhile. That'll do. And with this chisel brush, I'm just going to put a few more marks across to indicate the water. Bit of movement. And again, I'm going over that post because I'm going to make the post darker. I have a course on painting different sorts of water. I will put the link in the description box below, and I tell you what I'm going to do, because it's a season of goodwill and all that, I'm going to make it free to you until the end of the month, which isn't too far away. Right, okay, so we've basically got this sorted. I'm just going to dab that post off because I want to get some paint on it. I don't want it to bleed. Just tidy that up a bit there. Okie dokie, and I am going to use the chisel again. Get more raw umber, a bit darker colour. It's bled. That's what happens when you're in a hurry. Let's use the watercolour pencil instead. There we go. I can fiddle about with this at leisure. It's quite interesting actually, because look how the watercolour pencil is catching on the texture of the paper and giving me quite a nice textured finish. I haven't put the ropes in. If you're going to put the ropes in, I would suggest you use masking fluid. Turn this round. So it is just a demo. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. And so on and so on. I'm not going to do any more because that really is too wet. but the whole point of the video was to show you a way of going about something, a way of making it easier to do. So I hope that's been helpful to you, and I hope you have a go at that and make a better job of it than I did, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.